Welcome, everybody. I am Stacey McGurk with NutritionJobs. I am so excited that you are here because today we have a super special guest. She is like three employees and people in one. She's got this amazing resource that she's going to share with us today. And I am very, very excited to have her with us. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer McGurk. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Stacey. Thank you so much for that welcome. I am so honored to be here.
Yeah, so we are very happy to have you because you've got a lot of expertise that we all want to know about. You've got this very interesting career path. Here at NutritionJobs, we like to share lots of career tools, ways that we can better ourselves to make more money, to work in the areas that we want to work in, that we can both serve ourselves and also serve the public, however we want to do that. So I'm very, very excited, and I thought we can just get right to a lot of the questions. But before we do that, so I found this really interesting. Coincidentally, right before we decided we wanted to do this, I put out a poll on LinkedIn. And I just was curious to know, like, how many people are interested in setting up a private practice? How many people are interested in it? How many people are already doing it? How many people want to get into private practice but don't know how to do it? And how many people have no interest in it? And I have to admit, I was perfectly surprised that the majority of people want to go into private practice but don't know how to do it. So everybody, what a treat, a timely treat. Jennifer will share all of that with us. And she's going to talk a little bit more about how to present yourself well when you're trying to get hired in a private practice. If you don't want to start right away, if you want to start a little bit later. So Jennifer, I'm going to let you tell a little bit about your background. But first I'll give you a little primer on it, everybody. So Jennifer is in the intuitive eating, health at every size, anti-diet space. She runs a private practice, which means she also employs a lot of dietitians and she hires dietitians. And so she is the full package of what we'd like to hear. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this niche, this very unique niche.
Yes. So I am so happy to be here. Like I said before, Stacey, thank you all so much for having me. And it is funny that I teach other dietitians how to start a business. And at the same time, I employ other dietitians. And I think that we are all on this same mission together to help our clients feel fabulous about food. So business owners might have strengths in these particular areas. My clinical dietitians that work for the practice have strengths in these particular areas, but we all have the same mission, which we believe in so wholeheartedly, that an anti-diet, non-diet, health at every size, intuitive eating message really helps the world so much in so many different ways, because so many people have such a, disordered eating relationship with food. Anti-diet dietitians come in and really do have a transformation with our clients and give our clients so much value in healing their relationship with food. So we're all on the same mission, just to kind of start. But I got into this. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you've got this really amazing newsletter that people can subscribe to that really talks a lot about what this niche is. I have to admit, I learned a lot. When I was in my undergraduate school, we didn't have this niche. It had just been starting. Evelyn Tripoli was just starting. And Joanna Kita in the Bay Area also was just starting with this idea, the health at every size practice. And so it's very new. And your newsletters that you send out are just chock full of more information about it and how you can get into it, how you can help people. So what was sort of your idea around that? How did you get into that?
Yes. Well, it's so funny. I did not become a dietitian to become a non-diet dietitian. I actually, ironically, struggled with disordered eating myself back in high school, college, found nutrition as a way of me saying, oh, well, I want to know the answer of what to do. So I'm going to go and be a dietitian because I'm going to learn so much about how to help myself. But in reality, I was really struggling with my own relationship with food. So I became a dietitian, went through the process parallel to recovering from my own disordered eating and transitioning into becoming a non-diet dietitian, because when I saw the effects and the benefit of actually working on myself and healing my own relationship with food, I used a lot of those same skills to help my clients. And trust me, it was a very messy, non-linear process full of lots of twists and turns. But ultimately, I decided to start my own private practice because honestly, there were not a lot of jobs out there in the intuitive eating disorder world. And I really wanted to do this work. So I said to myself, how am I going to make the most impact? It doesn't seem like any place will hire me. I don't know, if I really want to have another job. At that point, I was not a very good employee, which I will talk about because I don't think your audience is the same as me. But when it comes down to it, I said, I want to be my own boss. I want to do this work. I want to work for myself and I want to be a business owner. And I started my own private practice and I took a risk. So it really was something back in 2010 when I was getting started. 2011, I officially opened. That was a huge stepping point, but I basically had just been through a lot of, turmoil in my own eating disorder recovery. And I thought to myself, if I can do that, I can do anything. So I put a lot of my energy into starting my own business.
Jennifer, you're so brave and so inspirational. You're just truly a gift to our profession. And when I look at your website,
Oh, thank
I
you.
look at all the happy smiling faces of, well, clients, but also the dietitians that work with you. You've got this
Yeah,
one photo where there's all of you like really enjoying the work that they're doing, that you're doing, and you created this space. You've created this environment. And I'm just applauding you for what you've done for our profession, both that you kind of went out on your own to make this happen, seeing that there was an area that you had some expertise and that you could help the clients, but also you brought on other dietitians because obviously you can't, there's volume to be done, and bringing on other dietitians help meets the needs of the business. So how many dietitians do you
absolutely.
currently have?
Yes. So I have hired many dietitians, and some of them have stayed at the practice for a short period of time, some a long period of time. I currently have two other clinical dietitians right now at Eat with Knowledge, and it works out beautifully because I am no longer the best fit to see clients because I am doing a lot of consulting work over at Pursuing Private Practice. I really do consider myself a true CEO. I'm in so many different departments of the business to make the business run the way that it does. I am not the best clinician anymore. And I have two amazing people that their zone of genius is to work with people individually and to do counseling. And one of my dietitians actually also does supervision. Not only for Laura, Alyssa does supervision, not only for Laura, but also Alyssa Toomey is a nutrition director over at Pursuing Private Practice and does group supervision with our dietitians over there. So she has also found her zone of genius in supervision. So creating this team where we are really doing our strengths in areas where we are best equipped to make the most difference is really how my business has built itself almost, in the sense of everyone is doing things that they are so passionate about and also so, proficient in. Because
Mm.
I'm the best CEO for the company, Alyssa's the best supervisor, Laura's the best dietitian, we're each doing things that we absolutely love to do.
So I think to make sure everyone understands that, so Jennifer actually has two businesses. She's got
Yes.
the
Thank you.
direct patient care business, and then she's got the business that is caring for dietitians, other dietitians,
Yes.
to create this type of practice. And that is just amazing. So in that process of these two different businesses, you've hired and interviewed, I'm imagining a lot of dietitians. How many dietitians do you think, or how many people have you
Yes, I mean,
interviewed?
when I think about the interviews, and I've also interviewed for different other positions on my team too, like administrative assistant, executive assistant, marketing, website design, those types of things too. So I've at least probably done like 50 interviews at this point for
I
people, which is
thought I thought it was up there, and that's what's so valuable, and that's one of the main reasons we wanted to bring
yeah,
you here together with our community, is give us some insights on
yes.
how can someone be best prepared for the job search process. So maybe can you give us your top three best tips for how someone can present themselves well in the job search, whether that's the resume, the
Absolutely.
LinkedIn, the interview, whatever you want to
Well,
offer. What are your top three?
and also too, if you don't mind me interjecting, best tips for employers too, because I actually think it does start with the employer having a very clear description on what is needed for the company. So the potential candidate can absolutely decide a boundary for themselves, whether or not that is something that they want to apply to or not. So I have been so guilty of this. So please don't think that I am saying this, that I was always perfect. But, when I see people say, hey, I'm looking for a dietitian to come to my practice, if you know of anyone, let me know. That is the worst type of actually like outreach that an employer could do. You want to make sure that you understand and outline what exactly the responsibilities are, what is the role required, what are the hours. I would even go so far as to saying like giving a pay range as an employer, because you do not want to go through the whole interview process and find out that you are on different wavelengths when it comes to pay and benefits and things like that. So I absolutely think it starts with the employer. And if you are the potential candidate, asking the employer for a detailed job description is probably recommendation number one, because if they don't have it, that probably tells you something about them. And not that that's bad, but that they might not know what they're looking for. And I've been in that situation before. So please know that I am not saying anything bad about that, but you want to make sure that you know exactly what the employer is looking for.
I think as a job seeker, like the job description is such a gold mine. You're right. It tells a little bit about the employer. Are they so scattered and disorganized? Maybe they're a startup that they haven't made the time to create this. So then how are you ever going to be successful if it's not really outlined what they need against what service you can provide? So, and then in writing cover letters and tailoring your resume, that job description is everything. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yes. And I would say maybe tip number 2 is actually researching the company. I know that when people are looking for jobs, it is very easy to just hit apply on many different positions. But when I was looking for my executive assistant, it was so interesting to me how many letters I got, dear employer, or to whom it may concern. And I understand that you are going off of a canned response or a template, because that is totally fine. But if you can't personalize it and say, hey, I looked up your website, this is why I'm interested in actually coming to work for the company, you're not going to stand out. And people need, like, if you want a position really, really badly, you need to stand out and set yourself apart from everyone else that's also applying to that job. So being very specific in, I've read the job description, looking up the company, matching your values to that person's values, very, very, very important, because you can learn any skill, but you can't necessarily change what you believe in. And I think that that is something that everyone has to remember.
Oh, that's a good one. The value. I think the value alignment is so important, especially if you're going into a niche that is new, unique, something that is important to you. I think that's really valuable. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other like key tips that you can think of? What about I think, that kind of goes back to the cover letter where you want to tailor it to the person, tailor it to the job. How about the resume? Do you like to see anything specific where the company's called out in the resume, or that it has a little professional summary or some sort of a statement at the top that aligns with that job? Or do you think that's even necessary?
No, when I'm looking at someone's resume, I think well, at least for me, and this might not be true for everybody, but at least for me, the main thing that I'm looking at your resume is to see what's your career story. And you don't have to have years and years and years of experience to create a story for yourself. So don't think that I'm saying that, but who are you as a person and what have you done with your career? If you've taken time off for whatever reason, and that maybe that's reflective in your resume, you might want to write about that in your cover letter. Although I want to say, especially because most of our profession is women and a lot of us are parents, I had someone put on their resume, I was the CEO of my household for a couple of years, and I loved that. So don't be afraid if you have had time off for whatever reason. Talk about that. That's life experience that you can bring to the company. And that is important. That's a strength of yours. So it's not to say that you have to have this perfect career path trajectory. It's just, as an employer, I want to see, what is your career story and what have you been doing?
I think that also speaks to the idea that because the profession has a lot of women who might be caring for families, either their own family or other family members. Sometimes people have the question of, should I hide the gap in my resume? And I think that's really important, is not to hide the gap, bring it up, talk about it,
Yeah.
show what you've done during that time. I'm sure there's leadership positions you've had. I'm sure there's been continuing education, and I'm sure there's been a lot of management, organizational skills. So there's a lot of different ways to incorporate experience. It doesn't have to be exactly clinical experience and health at every size, for example. Like, it can be a lot of experience
Exactly.
that hopefully
Yes.
can be helpful in a position. And so that sort of brings to mind, like, is it important to you as an employer, whatever the position is, that that person has the technical skills, or are you also looking for more soft skills, whether it's creative problem solving, or regardless of the number of years they've had experience out in the workforce?
That's a great question. To me, as an employer, I think the soft skills, what you just mentioned, are things that are very hard to teach. Project management, leadership, the ability to counsel and have a conversation with someone. It's much easier, in my opinion, to teach clinical skills than it is and counseling skills too, than it is to change someone's personality. So don't think that because you've never had experience before with intuitive eating or health at every size, that you are an automatic no for any types of positions like that. Are you teachable? Are you coachable? I would talk about that in your application, because think about all the things that you've had to learn as a dietitian. Learning intuitive eating and health at every size, we're always going to be constantly learning. Like, I still learn every single day. So if someone even came to me and said, I'm done learning about this, I would be like, that's a red flag, because we're never done learning. So don't ever think that you are done learning. Like, talk about that in your application, because that's actually a strength, I think,
I think
for a
that
lot of
applies to
people.
so much, right? Like, that
Yeah.
you're teachable, you're coachable. That means you're receptive, that you're curious, that you're on a growth mindset, that you're available for improvement. So I like that. I think that's good. And I like the idea of actually bringing that up in the cover letter, somehow bring it up
Yeah,
in the application process. So
exactly.
job interviewing, I know people are uh, typically anxious about that. The resume you can sort of craft in the quiet of your mind. The cover letter, the same thing. Your LinkedIn profile, it's like this ongoing dynamic document. The job interview, it's the live thing. It's like it's actually happening. So can you give us some insight then, when someone is job interviewing, like what is really important to you? I should back up just a little bit.
Yes.
And we talk about Nutrition Jobs about the show method of interviewing, or it's like the STAR method. It's just a way that you've got these story circles that can talk about specific stories you've had, work successes that are able to support a skill, whether that skill is leadership or that skill is problem solving, that you have in your mind some of these success stories. So I always encourage that when we've got lots of programs where we teach people how to do that. What are some of your go-to questions that people can sort of predictably prepare for when you're doing a job
Yes.
interview?
I love that you teach that, Stacey, because those are the exact types of things I want to learn about from a candidate. So same page. Because the thing is, like, anyone could say to me, I am so organized. I am so calm in stressful situations. I'm resilient, these types of qualities that a lot of people want when they are employing other people. But I think saying it and actually demonstrating it are two different things. So I want to hear those stories, what you just said. Like, I want to hear about a time where you had to solve a problem. I want to hear about a time where you didn't agree with a manager or a boss. I want to hear about, like, the most stressful situation that you've ever had. I want to hear about the biggest celebration that you've had at work,
Oh, I
because I
like
want to
that
see what you're
one.
passionate about. Yeah, I want to see what you're passionate about, because not only are we trying to make sure that we are a match skill wise, there's also something out there called company culture, which I think you probably obviously teach too. And you can't necessarily, like, put someone in a company culture and just have them all wonderfully get along. And that's not the best either, because you want different viewpoints and things on your company. But you want to make sure that everyone believes in the same values, mission, and you can't necessarily teach someone that. So you want to make sure that their natural personalities are going to be a fit for the company culture.
I
which is
like that
important.
one. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Those are all really great. I love that celebration. I love all
Yeah.
those questions. So that's very helpful. What's your opinion about the post interview process? A thank you note. How do you like to see that, or you think that's important, or what's your perspective on that?
I do think it's important, but I have to say, like, sometimes I don't receive thank you notes and I still totally appreciate and value the person that had the interview, which is totally fine. But most of the time I do get like a simple email. Thank you so much for having me, which I think is very courteous. I've also heard as employers, employers emailing potential candidates, thank you so much for coming in, because it's a
Yes,
two-way street. And that's
totally.
something that I cannot stress enough. And I would not ever teach the dietitians in Dietitian Business School, the program that I run on building a business, on how to hire a team member without my team there. I'm not going to actually tell and teach people how to hire a team and say like, well, this is only for the people that hire team members. And then for my own team, this is like something that I wouldn't tell them. Like, that's not how I roll. Authenticity and honesty is best. Like, sharing information with the team and having them understand why we make certain decisions that we make is really, really important. And that's how I teach people how to hire. So my biggest thing is that your team member that is potentially joining a company, it has to be a good match for them just as much as it is a good match for you as the employer. So be authentic. Don't make stuff up on either side. Be respectful of one another's time. Have a really, it's kind of like a first date. If you want to think about it in dating, like, you want to make sure that you are a good match and you have chemistry, because you're going to be working with people a lot in your career. So just want to make sure that's a good match. And
And
that's
being
why,
authentic.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That is so
authentic.
key, because ultimately it's not just about that hour that you're spending with the employer. It's hopefully it's going to be a long time, 3+ years,
Yes,
right? Like, and
yes,
you want to learn from them. You want to grow and learn. So yeah, that totally makes sense. Thank you for all of that.
yeah.
Switching gears now, we talked about job interviewing, and you've given us tons of successful tips to be successful. Everybody wants to learn about how to start their own private practice. And you've got this amazing
Um,
company, you've got this amazing business that's super, super helpful. So can you tell
Thank
us a little
you.
bit more about that?
Yes. So pursuing private practice was born out of an idea I had to write a very short book series back in 2015. So that book series was actually released in 2016. And I like to say, like, you never know what will happen when you just take the next step. It doesn't have to be the step that's step 100, but it's literally the next step for you. So I have built this business one step at a time. It has pivoted in different directions, but it has always stayed very passionate about supporting dietitians build a business. So currently Pursuing Private Practice has two offers available. One is called Beginner Basics, which is a course on how to get started in private practice. So that is very different than what we're talking about today in terms of hiring an employee or a team member. So Beginner Basics lays the foundation for you with different things that you need to know in order to get your business set up. And our tagline for that course is that you go from knowing nothing about business to getting your very first client. So that is what Beginner Basics is meant for you to do. So it's things like office setup, the pros and cons of insurance, business, legal questions, ideal-ish client, simple marketing tips to get yourself out there. We give templates and tools and all things related to private practice in that course. And then for people that are building their business, Dietitian Business School is our business coaching program. So it is currently going to be opening up in July. We are so excited about that. It's a 10-month program, and we cater it to you depending on your stage of business. So we serve dietitians that are starting, growing, scaling, and coasting. So we have business education and training, but your specific recommendations are going to be whether or not you are just starting off your business, growing your business, scaling your business, which includes hiring people, or coasting. And coasting is the stage of business, because making sure that we incorporate self-care and boundaries when we're growing a business is really important. And going back to some of the life stuff we were talking about before, sometimes you can't necessarily just work on your business by growing your business and getting more referrals. Sometimes you have to work on your business by setting boundaries, increasing your revenue, things like that. That is something that we don't talk about enough. So that is actually a stage of business
What are you
in
doing?
Dietitian Business School.
That's good. Okay. I'm just asking everyone to mute. Good. Okay. That is super,
So-
super helpful. Thank you for that. I think,
You're
again,
welcome.
I've talked about how you've got this great resource. Let me go back up to your page again, how you've got this great resource. And I think that both of them are so supportive and so beneficial. So again, thank you for creating this for our profession so that we all can be successful in this. And thank you for sharing your wealth. I think that's sort of where you came out of this, was that you built this successful business yourself. And it's important to share the word, share the wealth, share the information, so that we can all,
Exactly.
as Orly Walter says, like, rising tide lifts all the ships. That's not hers, but it's the idea that as dietitians, if we can reach more people successfully, then as a profession, we all grow, that we all benefit from that. So thank you for creating all of this. This is really fantastic.
You're welcome.
Jennifer, your words were so good. Something else?
For the people out there, it's so funny to me, but for the people out there that are like, create my own business, oh my gosh, that is not for me. I just want to do the work. That is amazing. Go work for a private practice. And I think in your gut which one you are, because the entrepreneur brain sometimes doesn't shut off. There's something nagging you, like, I need to have my own business. As scary and overwhelmed and anxious as that person feels, that doesn't necessarily turn off. There is a difference between someone that's like, I just want to go see clients. I don't want nothing to do with the business thing. And that to me is, you're going to be perfect working for someone else's private practice.
Right.
So,
I think there's room for all of that. I think both you and I
on the
running
same
our own
mission.
businesses. Yeah, we both run our own businesses, and it's not easy. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on. There's a lot of decision making that happens. There's a lot of housekeeping. Like, the housekeeping is it's a lot. So it's not just providing the service, it's all the other stuff that goes along with it. And so back to that poll, like, people want to be able to work for themselves, and a lot of people want to work in a private practice. So I love all of that. And so thank you for all the resources. Thank you for all the job tips you gave us as well. Job interviewing, that is just super, super helpful. So thank you for that, Jennifer.
Thank you, Stacey. And thank you for all the resources you provide to people too, because I feel like your business is making such a difference. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I love doing this. And I just wanted to show I've got all those different courses. I think a lot of people in our community know this. So definitely check that out. And on NutritionJobs.com, over on the right-hand side, if you're on a desktop, there is a downloadable PDF that you can get to help you fill out your LinkedIn profile. And of course, if we're here on YouTube, thank you so much for subscribing. We've got lots of great instructionals coming out. Do connect with me over on LinkedIn, and connect with Jennifer too, and check out her great resources. She's got a great newsletter, as I said, so definitely check it out again. So thank you everybody for joining today. And
thank you, Stacey.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'll be downloading your LinkedIn resource.
Exactly. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.